All right. Welcome to Q&A number 3. It's going to be a little bit different. First of all, I just tell you what you're looking at right now on the screen. You're looking at the color study of Mount Talbot. It's a digital design, and I'm working directly over the top of a painting that I produced in the studio. Just a tiny little 3 by 4 inches. And I'm working over the top in Photoshop digitally, really nailing down that composition before I transfer it to the final canvas, which I've already started. So I'm really excited to share that process with you as well. But really what I wanted to do is just provide some visuals here for this Q&A, so it wasn't so boring and you didn't get sick of looking at my ugly mug. So what I'm going to be doing is basically, I might address some of what you're seeing on the actual screen, but the point of this is to answer your questions that you've sent me. And kind of fitting in with the new format of things here, I'm mixing it up a little bit on Patreon. I hope you're enjoying the new content. I'm going to just be putting some of these questions on the screen, and I'm going to answer about half a dozen in this half-hour session. I don't think I'm going to struggle to fill up the time because you know me, I can gas bag a whole bunch. So hopefully this is interesting and entertaining. Now, I'm going to apologize in advance for the noise that you hear in the background. It is teeming down out there. The rain has now hit, and it is just bucketing down. But something kind of nice about that. It's, you know, don't people listen to like relaxing soundtracks of just rain falling? It's quite nice. Makes you want to be in the studio and paint something. So let's kick things off. Now, generally, and when I made the call out a while ago for this Q&A session, I said, hey, look, please, give me questions in relation to, and I'll answer anything, in relation to these 3 categories. And ask me anything, a technical section and a business section. So technical painting stuff, and then art, business, creative stuff, and then whatever else you wanted to know, and that ask me anything. So I've got some different questions here from these different categories, and this was the response to a call out that I made well over a month ago. So I'm just going to start chipping away at some of those questions. But if you think of something that you really want to ask me, would love to get into it, just hit me up in that comment section down below. Just here on Patreon, just enter a comment down there. Be happy to answer your question. So I'm here for you. And thanks for being here, by the way. I really appreciate your support. Thanks for being here on Patreon. So let's just get stuck into it. Now, first question here comes from Antigone, or I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I really hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Great question here, an Ask Me Anything question. She asks, I would like to create a new body of work, a new series for this year. The work is going to have a basic idea, theme that would unfold slowly as to tell a story, my story. Tell that story in many different ways, so with sketches, smaller studies, paintings, etc. How do I let myself explore the above? Where do I start with revealing the raw energy of the ideas I have in mind? Thanks. Now, Antigone, you did also hit me up recently with a little bit of a prod going, hey, where is that Q&A video? So I'm sorry if I've kept you waiting, but this is a pretty in-depth question, and it's actually going to be a little bit tricky to answer. Let me answer it this way by just kind of reflecting on my process and kind of my frustration in a way with dealing with my own ideas and how they seem to develop. What you're seeing here right now on the screen is the development of one of these ideas. This painting has been in my mind for, years, at least 2 years, probably well over 2 years, 3, 4, maybe. Yeah, about 5 years, I'd say. About 5 years. I've been dying to get into another Mount Talbot scene and talk about raw energy and trying to get something that's in me, get that out. It's quite frustrating, when you feel kind of hemmed in by things. And of course, there's some big life stuff going on at the moment, so it's a bit tricky. We've all got to balance that stuff out. But essentially, the way I develop an idea, the way I kind of think about a body of work, and what I'm really doing this year over 2022 is I'm structuring my time and bodies of work and workflow in the studio in series. And I actually have a series of paintings working simultaneously, but I've got 4 paintings in each series. So it's a little mini body of work, but I've got right away over the next few months, and it might even take me the whole year with the rate of online content that I'm putting out. It's quite tough to get the studio time in. But those series are New Zealand mountains, of which you're watching one right now on the screen. And I'm playing with some of those Groot brushes, those digital brushes. Love that, by the way, for that mountain texture and some of that distant stuff. Still working on my digital technique. But I'm working on those mountains. Then I'm working on Venice Italian scenes. And then I'm going to be doing some seascapes, revisiting some seascapes, some old favorites, but also just trying to bring in a new raw, rugged power into that. And the way I develop those ideas is very much like what you see happening here, where you start off simple. You take that idea that's in your mind and you just get it out. Now, I made a YouTube video about this recently, about the color studies. So check out my my channel, where you probably first found out about me anyway, where you were watching some of that stuff on YouTube. Check out that video. Really, this is my attempt at shooting from the hip when I do those tiny little 3x4 studies. That's the way to capture the idea. When you've captured it, you've got it. And now you could start to tease it out and develop it more and more and more. You know, this is both an artistic practice, but a bit of a technical question, but also a bit of a creative question in a way, because you really have to show up. I feel now I'm at a point in my career where it's becoming, let's just say it's becoming a little bit easier, that the technical side of things is slowly getting out of the way. So now I can just execute on the idea without having to worry about how I'm going to pull it off. Now it's like, what do I see in my head? Okay, I can do that. I can go for that. Now, you might be going, well, that's great, Mr. Smarty Pants. Nice for you. But what I mean is it does take a long time, an incredible amount of time to develop these skills. And so when you're doing art, in particular oil painting, you got to be in it for the long haul. But develop it. If you find that you're just planning this out, start off slow, start off simple, start off with those little sketches, and then tease out that idea over, color studies, sketches, work it up into smaller paintings, and then finally execute on those bigger ones. I think you'll find that will help capture that raw, rugged energy, right? I hope that makes sense. Essentially, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to take those ideas, that initial little spark of inspiration, execute on it with just a tiny little thing, see it develop from there. Great question. There's I might even have to think about that a bit more. I hope I've answered it. Please let me know in the comments down below if I haven't. But essentially, I think the crux of what you're asking me is, where do I start revealing the raw energy of the ideas I have in mind? I think that's it. I think that's the place to start. Shoot from the hip, thumbnail sketch, tiny little oil study, then develop it. Try digital. See if that's going to work for you. I highly recommend following Anthony Avon on Patreon. I'm becoming such an Anthony Avon fanboy. It's a bit ridiculous, actually. I'm loving what he's putting out, especially with some of these old master color studies that he's doing. They're just exquisite, superb. Love it. Okay, I hope that answers the question, Antigone, and I hope I pronounced your name right. Thank you so much for asking that and sending that through. I've got a question here from Rowan Carey, my man, Rowan Carey, who, I got to give thanks for some of the intros. I'm going to have to rethink some of the intros here. We're going no frills for the next couple of weeks, but shout out to my man there. Good dude. Great painter too, Rowan. Love what he posts on the Tish Zone. So I highly recommend following him on Instagram as well. Hey, Andrew. What are the pros and cons of being a full-time artist? Oh, how long do we have? I'm running down the clock already. This video is not going to be long enough. I should have chosen a different question. Sorry, Rowan. Also, I feel myself getting stuck in the commission route with my art. I find it hard to sell my larger originals that are my own ideas, but not that hard to fetch higher prices for larger commissions. Right. Which makes it hard to say no commissions for a while to build a solid body of work, large and small, to try and sell. Would you suggest pressing pause on the commissions for 6 months to a year and paint a series for an exhibition or something like that? I need some advice for selling my larger, higher priced originals that aren't commissions. Yeah. Okay. Great question. Let's get into the first one. I'll address that really quickly. What are the pros and cons of being a full-time artist? The pros, everything. The cons, nothing. All right, moving on. No. The pros, look, I think everything comes with its own unique set of challenges, but personally speaking, and I really want to try and be as personal here as possible and just kind of give you a bit of a window into what's going on here. And I don't want to glamorize it too much. I can't imagine doing anything else, so I can't really speak with any great level of authority on doing anything else because I never really have. I've been a full-time artist since I was 21 years old. I never really had to enter the workforce. I had a couple of dead-end jobs as a kid, but even in my early 20s, but it was always just to kind of make rent or buy groceries. But the minute I hit 21 years old, it was full-time art and I had no other source of income. That was it. I came close a couple of times to really losing everything a couple of times. So I'm a slow learner. But I'd say the biggest pros are obviously being your own boss is a huge pro. I think I work well with others. I cooperate well with others. I like being of service to others, but I don't think I would do too well with somebody else's agenda per se. I really do I think that's the biggest pro is being kind of the captain of this ship and driving this thing where I want it to go and where I'm inspired to go. So I think that's probably the biggest pro. When you get to a certain point in your career as well, and diversification really does help. And I talk about this a bunch in the podcast. And a lot of my guests actually bring amazing strategies for how to do this, how to diversify as an artist. The more you diversify, the more you can kind of set up a business that you start to derive passive income from it. And let me just throw this out there as well. The harder I work, the more passive it is. So passive is a bit of a misnomer, but essentially you're putting products out there in the marketplace that will continue to pay you for a period of time as long as they're there. And that does free you up. So I'd say that's some massive pros. And there's some huge pros to just being an artist working today. If you use what's available to you in terms of the technology that we have access to, I mean, good night. There are some things that we can do now that we probably couldn't have done 20 years ago because platforms like Instagram just didn't exist. So, if you wanted to try and make an online business and sell through social medias, you were Buckley's. You didn't have anything that could get you out there, like you have now. So huge pros in that department. The cons, I would say, when you open up as many tins of worms as you can open, and you try to open as many as I have opened, the cons definitely are you create a monster that once it's taken a certain amount of your time, then it starts taking pieces of you. You start to feel like you're consumed by a monster that you've created. And I must admit, there are days where I feel very trapped by what I've made here. But not that I'm complaining. I'm super grateful for it. And I don't necessarily, whilst I am hard working, I don't necessarily take responsibility for it either, or credit for it, I should say. I feel like it's all a blessing. So I don't want to seem ungrateful, but it is what it is. It takes so much time. And I'd say that's the biggest con is I don't know how to shut off. It was easier when the studio was outside of the house. Now that it's in the house, it's so easy to just walk in the other room and start working again, which means you can never really get away from it. I'll leave it there for the pros and the cons because the time's running short. I want to try and get through these questions, but and really answer the larger question that you have here. So I'll leave it there for pros and cons. But man, I could fill volumes on that, and I could also fill libraries on the stuff that I don't know. But very interesting question. So I hope that is satisfactory for that first little part. But in terms of the commissions, so dealing with commissions and dealing with bodies of work, I'm kind of there now as well, I must admit. What I would recommend, and try this, start producing work and just putting yourself out there. And those works that you put out there that are really from the heart and really expressive and something that you're feeling and just something that you're so engaged in, I think will be just such a tantalizing hook that's out there in the water that will attract the leads that you're looking for, and then it will generate more commissions based on the things that you really want to do. It's hard to get much of a sense of what you really want to do, from the body of work that you have, because, from the outside looking in, Rowan, your works are incredible. Your landscapes are epic, bro. But are you fully there? Are you fully engaged? So when you say it's a commission, this is why commissions are problematic for me, because it's hard for me to get excited about it or emotionally invested in the project that's somebody else's idea. I have now officially closed commissions. I'm not doing them anymore. I won't do them. I'm just going to focus for the next little while, as long as I have maybe a couple of years of just studio time. I'm just going to dedicate it to the ideas that I really want to do that I've been putting off for years. And again, you might be thinking, must be nice. Well, the thing is, I've been doing commissions for a long time, and I've nearly been in this 20 years professionally. So, you get to a point where you just start chipping away at this body of work. But what I found, okay, let me put it this way. When I was really engaged and really just all in on an idea that was my idea, and I put it out there in the market, that really struck a chord with a key audience, and then started generating more commissions. Every now and again, I would get the odd kind of idea from a client that was kind of outside the norm of what I did. But yeah, I was never really there. So I always found it a bit icky. It's not a bad practice. I don't want to say that. It's not unethical, but I just didn't feel as invested as I could have been. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. But what I would do, try this. I hope I'm not rambling too much, but I hope this makes sense. What I would do, I would start producing, work on your commissions, finish your commissions, fulfill those orders. For every commission you do, just do 2 or 3 paintings, post them to social media, put them up on your website, really put them out there, plug the heck out of it, like really throw it out there, and see if that generates more leads for you. That's what I would do. So for every commission you do 2 or 3 works and put them aside for a body of work. The other thing that would be really, really good is, as you start to accumulate that work, put on an exhibition. As soon as you hit about 15 to 20 paintings that you've accumulated, put on a show. So, Rowan, you're working right now. Like you have a job. You're that close to going full time as an artist. I'm telling you right now, that close. You could probably just stop what you're doing right now and go into this full time. You're that good. Not just saying that. So what I would do is start accumulating that body of work, put on a show, sell some originals. That will start this thing. Really, it's almost like having a pull cord on a generator or a lawnmower. You might have to just pull and crank that a few times before it starts running. And then once it starts running, you're off. It can work. Oh, great analogy. I might keep that one. All right, Ron, I hope that answers the question. Thank you for sending this through, brother. And good luck. And folks, if you're not already following Rowan Carey on Instagram, just look up his name. Go follow him there. It's awesome stuff. Okay. I got a question here from Edward. Business question. It's pretty obvious that you have a lot of people that support your work here. And by here, he means Patreon, I suppose. But for younger people, such as myself, how can we make the leap from just doing your own artworks and actually selling your artwork and getting commissions? Okay. For me, I can see that people like my paintings, but they never ask for a price or when I sell them, or when I tell them it's for sale, it seems that they prefer to just look at it from their phones. And I know this is coming. Yes, I do have a copy of the famous book, Art, Money, Success. I'm going to give it a second read very, very soon. All right. Maria Brophy aside, and her wonderful book, fabulous book, Art, Money, Success. Read that book, folks. I'd really like to get Maria back on the podcast. She's had a heck of a lot going on, and Drew's been very unwell. So I really hope he's pulling through now, following that situation. So Drew Brophy is her husband. Wonderful couple, and she's amazing. She's just done such a wonderful book, so really recommend that. But to get started, I mean, a bit like what I was telling Rowan, you've really just got to start accumulating work. If there's nothing else that you take from anything that I teach or anything that I say, I want you to remember this one thing. Especially if Edward, you describe yourself as a young person. So for anybody young listening to this, if you can dedicate yourself to one practice, and I'm going to tell you where I got this from. I got this from Tony Robbins, and I take it personally. And ever since I first heard it, I'm just like, I am taking this all the way. This is so important. Make a commitment right now to constant and never-ending improvement. Constant and never-ending improvement. And plug that in as a personal philosophy into everything, but especially your artwork. So we're talking about your materials, the quality of your paintings, the subject matter, everything. Just continue to find ways to improve that. And focus on the quality. You are producing a product. Now, don't wait for people to come to you to buy your paintings. Sometimes you have to go out there and get the sale. You have to go out there and you have to sell it. So I'm going to recommend something else to you, Edward. I'm going to recommend listening to a few Grant Cardone books. And I say listening because it's kind of cool listening to the audio version of some of Grant Cardone's work. I think I'm safe saying this. I don't think I can be sued for saying this. He's full on, right? He is really full on. And they're a bit cheesy. And some of his stuff is a bit silly. I'm just going to say that. But I like him. I think he's got good energy and he's got some great sales stuff. But the one thing Grant Cardone has is tenacity. He's a bulldog. He just doesn't give up. He's on it and he doesn't give up. So we could really use that as artists. So first, work on your quality. And then, what's your website like? What's your social media like? When are you posting? What are those hashtags looking like? Do you have a newsletter? Are you collecting people's email addresses? Here's the other thing. I'm going to give away right now one of the key secrets to my business and every other successful art business that's out there right now. And this is pretty much echoed by most of the podcast guests that I have on. Or when I tell them this, that this is my personal philosophy, they're like, yeah, actually, that's true. That makes sense for me. Okay. The health of your business is measured in how many people you can email right now. Okay? I'll repeat that. The health of your business is measured in how many people you can email right now. It's not necessarily followers. It's not likes or clicks or views. It's email addresses. Why? Well, direct to customer or client or student email marketing actually works better than anything else I've found and anything else that I've heard about. Because when somebody gives you their email address, they're already interested and they're already invested. You need to start collecting those emails. You need to ask people to share, what they're following and interested in with their friends and family and people that they think might be interested as well. The people that are fans and on board with you will turn around and recruit more fans and they'll start doing work for you in that regard. But I would start right now. Look, if you want to go into teaching art, great. It works great for an art teaching business. I can really speak to that. But for selling art, if you just, all you have to do is say, hey, look, this painting is available. And all you're doing is doing somebody a favor by saying, I've got this. And then the sale will happen or it won't. If it doesn't, if you don't sell, Try not to take it personally. You could consider it as feedback from the marketplace, but maybe it's just an indication that you need to do more marketing. I'll give you a little kind of background here into the online business side of things. I've got a reasonably large following. I didn't always. I started somewhere too, just like everybody else. I started with 0, and then it grew. So basically, what you want to unplug my headphones. Hopefully you can still hear me. Am I still coming through? Okay, cool. Plug that back in. Oh, now I'd gone down, lost my train of thought. I'm gonna get a drink of water. This is the beauty of not editing your Q&A videos, just talking into the mic. Did I warn you it was going to get dangerous? When you email somebody, they're already invested, they're already in, they're already bought into the idea, and they're what you would consider hot traffic, right? But my conversion rate for all my online sales is about 1 to 1.5%. Sometimes when it's really good, it's about 2 to 2.5%, right? Now think about that. Like, if you got a room of 100 people, one person's buying, maybe 2 people if you're lucky, right? That's a figure that would depress most people, but that's just a reality of online business. So what is it? I mean, it's like casting a net out into the ocean. You're casting a huge net. You're going to catch just a little bit. You don't catch the entire surface area of your net. Something gets caught up in that. Online business is very much the same way, and email marketing is very much the same way. But I would really take that one all the way, okay? Just like the CANI, which is an acronym for constant and never-ending improvement. Think about that, from the business side of things. Improve your quality, but also start collecting people's email addresses. So, website, social media, following, right? Work on the constant, never-ending improvement on those two. Start building a email list and ask people for their email. Hey, do you like my stuff? Oh, you want to look at it on your phone? That's all you want to look? Well, you can get pictures on your phone all dang day. I will email them to you. Join my mailing list, right? See how that works? So just send them emails and send one out a week. Send out a newsletter. This is what I'm working on this week in the studio. It works. It does work. Great question. I'm going to really try and cram these in here. I've got Noami, Linda, Marianne Bailey. Okay, let's go. To frame or not to frame? What are the factors to take into consideration to determine the style of the frame? Should you invest on a professional framing service or just provisional moderate framing? And how successful would unconventional framing be, i.e. cement or iron? Noami, you've been here from day one, I think, haven't you? Like, not just on Patreon, but following me on YouTube. You're one of my OGs, aren't you? Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for your support. Really appreciate you. I recognize your name, so thanks for sending this through as well. Okay, just the last part of your question there. How successful would an unconventional frame be, cement or iron? It depends how strong your wall is for those two materials, but give it a shot. I mean, really what it comes down to is the taste of the client that it's going to. But here's the way I get around it, right? Whenever you frame something, it's a risk. I put work out there in the frames that I want to see my paintings in, but more often than not, the client always changes it out. So what do you do then? I standardize my sizes of my paintings. So I know that my paintings are going to be, for the most part, 36-48, 20 by 30, 30 by 40, 20 by 24, 16 by 20, 12 by 16, 10 by 12, 8 by 10s. Generally speaking, I've got those frames and I'm working to those sizes. I might do a 12 by 24, so at a 2-to-1 ratio, or maybe something slightly obscure. But what I do is I set up display frames and I say, look, it's available with the frame, give them a framed price or an unframed price. And if they don't like it, they can change it out. But a lot of people don't really like my frames because they're just so, I think they consider them gaudy because I do go for that traditional gilded look. I love gilded frames. I love gilded frames, like Victorian, 19th century type stuff. I got a lot of replicas in the house. So I've only got 2 genuine 19th century frames. And I won't part with those ones. But To frame or not to frame, I think framing does work, but it also does depend on the kind of style that you have. Watch my video on YouTube on framing. Honestly, that's my taste in frames, is the kind of frames that I make. I call it a Franken frame. So I take recycled material, so I get creative with it. Recycled old offcuts from picture framers. I put them together. I make like all sorts of weird shapes with them. And then I start building and compositing on top of that. And then I gold leaf them, prime them, fill them, sand them back, and then gold leaf. Good fun. Good question, too. All right, moving on. Linda Smith. Andrew, my question is a basic one based on a comment you made about someone storing their brushes improperly. Okay, I think I know the one you're talking about. Brush side up. No, handle was up, so brush side was down. After researching, I understand the best way is brush head down or horizontally. No, hang on. No, I was fussing. I can't remember the name of the poor chap that I was, Mark, I think it was Mark. But somebody had their brushes sticking in a jar, like bristles down in a jar of solvent or water if it was acrylic. And I fussed at him. Or horizontally, agreed. However, the reason most don't is the lack of products specifically designed for this. I found some makeup brush holders that work, but why are there so few materials available like this for art? I see you have personally designed a lot in your art space and creatively overcome a lack of products. Can you discuss the importance of good brush storage and other inadvertent bad habits really great artists need to correct in their work or spaces? I feel it's never too late to break a bad habit. Okay, just with brushes, if you want your brushes to last a long time, don't store them with the bristles down so the weight of the handle is compressing those bristles, because you end up with a bunch of shapes that they look like hockey sticks by the time, if you've left it in there and, oh shoot, I didn't wash my brushes. You got like a 00 ivory rigger and it's now suddenly going off at a right angle. Wash the brush, and then what I do is I wash that brush in my Pure Gum Turps. I go through 3 washes, I get all the paint out, and then I lay it down horizontally to more or less dry, but I get as much of that solvent out as possible. And then after a period of days, then it goes standing up back in the jar vertically, handle down, bristles up, right? The reason I don't wash and then put it straight in the jar with the bristles sticking up is because the solvent carries that pigment and it starts to accumulate down in the ferrule, and then eventually the bristles start to splay apart. If you look at my brushes, most of them, due to good brush care and hygiene, good brush hygiene, they still hold their shape. So what causes the fraying is actually the physical action on the brush, but it's not through cleaning, not at all. So I would have a look at that. But yeah, it's true. I have designed a lot in my studio space. My studio space is perfectly designed for the way that I work. I don't work the same as everybody, but it works for me. From the wall easel to the palette dolly that I've built. But also remember, like, a lot of what I'm doing in my studio is based on filming, because I'm actually filming tutorials. So I've got rigs hooked up. I'm hanging stuff off the ceiling, off the wall, various places. So it really is set up as a filming studio. So filming is always, of course, secondary to the painting, but I had to work out solutions for all this stuff because I kind of fit in a weird place for that. So yeah, anyway, it is what it is. But I credit where credit's due. Mark Carter has a great little idea for a horizontal brush holder. He's got a really beautiful looking model that he's used for the brush holder, but you can also build one out of cardboard pretty easy. So go and find that, Mark Carter. I would build something similar, but I guess he already got there first. Okay, Marianne Bailey. I'm going to see if I can squeeze this question in while we still have time. Hi, Andrew. I've been watching and learned so much and learned from so many of your Q&A videos. I'm watching my tone, saving my tonal best for last. Good on you. Color saturation. I hear a lot about paying attention to temperature can help keep a painting from looking chalky or muddy. I also heard that highlights should be cool and shadows should be warm. If that's a steadfast rule, though, how do you work with temperatures in your paintings? Do you have general rules that you go by choosing warm or cool color? I've heard you mention warm or cool color during some of your videos, but I'm not clear on when to warm or a cool color should be used. Okay. All right. I'm going to leave the Ask Me Anything question off. Sorry, Marianne. But on warm or cool color, I'm going to admit something right now. I don't really focus on it at all. I do talk about it here and there. I'm more focused on tone and saturation. Tone and saturation. Then I think about the quality of the light, right? Is it a warm light or is it a cool light? Color, you can tend to geek out and go too far off in the technical deep end, worried about, okay, is ultramarine warm or cool? Is this warm or cool? You know, it's a lot of it, I think, is just unnecessary, and it can really trip us up. So the way I teach, I'm focused more on tone, and then I focus on that quality of light, and then obviously saturation as well. I will cover this question in more depth at a later date because I think it's going to need its own video and its own topic. So thank you for sending that through. I've got 1 minute left on the clock here. Maybe I can't squeeze in this Ask Me Anything. I've watched so many of your videos. Apologies if you've gone into depth on this in a prior video. Somehow I missed it. Okay. Sorry, I misread that. Not sure if it's a technical or an Ask Me Anything. Okay. That's a good question. It's a technical question. Cool. And thanks so much for you. Yeah, no worries, Marianne. It's an absolute pleasure to be here for you and for everybody else. I enjoy this. I really love this. Look, it's a fun little Q&A. In the last 20 seconds that I have with you here, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your support and following me here on Patreon. Really appreciate it. Hope you've enjoyed this little time lapse of my design. There's Mount Talbot digital version ready to transfer it to the canvas. Okay, I'll look forward to seeing you again very soon in the next Q&A or whatever other video. So long.